The Galactic Empire's invasion began with absolute certainty. They had conquered dozens of planets before, and in their eyes, Earth was just another backward, divided world. Their fleet, an overwhelming force of battleships and dropships, descended upon the planet in a show of strength. From their command ships, the Empire's leaders watched Earth through holographic projections, expecting nothing more than a quick and easy victory. Reports suggested Earth was fractured. Too many nations, too many different ideologies, and technology that couldn't compare to their advanced weaponry. In the early hours of the invasion, the skies over Earth's major cities darkened with the silhouettes of massive alien vessels. Orbital bombardments began, targeting what the Empire perceived as key locations, military bases, industrial centers, and communication hubs. Explosions ripped through the sky as alien beams sliced through the atmosphere, flattening structures in a matter of seconds. Cities braced for chaos, but the Empire's commanders were in for an unpleasant surprise. Instead of the disorganized panic they'd anticipated, Earth's response was swift and focused. The Terran strike force had been waiting. Earth's leaders had long suspected that one day, an outside force would come. With that in mind, they'd invested heavily in a series of secret projects. Their response to the invasion was immediate, and the world united faster than any alien intelligence could have predicted. Borders dissolved as old rivalries were set aside. A single, centralized command took control. General Maria Kalin, a seasoned strategist known for her no-nonsense approach to warfare, was put in charge of Earth's defense. Her command style was methodical, her experience vast. She had spent years preparing for a day like this. On the first day of the invasion, as alien ships descended, the Terran strike force launched their defense systems, much to the invaders' confusion. A planet supposedly too primitive to stand against the Empire now activated advanced energy shields around major population centers. These shields weren't just barriers. They absorbed the energy from the alien bombardments and repurposed it to fuel Earth's defense network. Every shot fired by the Empire strengthened the Terran forces, rendering the orbital attacks increasingly ineffective. The invasion was not going as the Empire expected. But this was just the beginning. On the ground, alien troops began deploying in key locations, believing they'd easily overpower the humans. Their exocets and energy weapons were designed for quick subjugation. However, as they moved forward, something happened that they hadn't accounted for. Human forces, trained in adaptable and tactical warfare, hit back hard. The alien forces found themselves outmatched in close combat. Guerrilla warfare tactics honed over centuries of human conflict were used to devastating effect. Ambushes and precision strikes threw the alien ground forces into confusion. Instead of running or surrendering, humanity was fighting back with an intensity that caught the invaders completely off guard. The Terran strike force, operating in secrecy for years, was revealed in full. This elite group had been formed for this exact scenario. Armed with cutting-edge technology that had been reverse-engineered from recovered alien artifacts, they were unlike anything the Empire had expected. The strike force quickly went on the offensive, hacking into the alien systems and turning their own weapons against them. Terran engineers began jamming communication signals between the Empire's fleet and ground troops, sowing chaos within the ranks. Earth scientists, led by the brilliant Dr. Alana Rourke, worked around the clock, dissecting and re-engineering every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on. It was a race against time, but humanity had one advantage the Empire didn't: creativity. Where the Empire's technology was advanced, it was rigid. The aliens relied on predefined strategies and overwhelming force, but Earth scientists and engineers thrived on improvisation. They adapted alien tech faster than anyone thought possible, and within hours, Terran drones armed with alien weaponry were deployed in battle. The Empire's commanders, watching from their ships, struggled to comprehend what was happening. They had never encountered resistance like this. Their war doctrine had always been simple: invade, overwhelm, and subjugate. But humanity was proving to be more than just another planet to conquer. They weren't just defending themselves. They were actively learning from the invaders, turning every disadvantage into an advantage. The Empire had assumed Earth would crumble, but instead, It was fighting back with a ferocity and ingenuity that was entirely unexpected. The first major turning point came when the Terran strike force successfully hijacked one of the Empire's main warships. This wasn't supposed to be possible. Their ships were protected by layers of encrypted security protocols. But the strike force, using human ingenuity and stolen alien tech, broke through. The captured ship turned its weapons on the invading fleet, causing chaos as the Empire's forces struggled to identify friend from foe. This was the moment when the invasion began to truly backfire. The Galactic Empire's forces, so confident in their superiority, were now facing a war they hadn't prepared for. Their greatest mistake was underestimating humanity's capacity to adapt, to innovate, and to fight back with everything they had. The first phase of the invasion, which was supposed to be swift and decisive, turned into a drawn-out conflict that the Empire was losing control of. What had started as an easy conquest had become a nightmare for the Empire. Their ground forces were bogged down, their ships were being hacked, and their energy weapons were being repurposed against them. The Galactic Empire had invaded Earth, but now they were the ones facing an enemy they couldn't fully understand or predict. This wasn't just a simple invasion anymore, this was the beginning of their downfall. And humanity wasn't done yet. The first wave of the invasion left the Galactic Empire stunned, but their commanders refused to admit defeat. Arrogance clouded their judgment. They believed the setbacks were merely tactical errors, not a sign of humanity's true strength. As the Empire scrambled to regroup, Earth's response only grew more aggressive. The Terran strike force launched its next phase with precision, fully exploiting the cracks in the Empire's strategy. With alien communications in disarray, human forces moved swiftly. Using guerrilla warfare tactics honed through centuries of conflict on Earth, they struck at key points, destabilizing the invaders. Alien troops, accustomed to straightforward domination, found themselves outmaneuvered. Human fighters didn't play by the Empire's rules. Instead of standing toe-to-toe, Terran forces launched hit-and-run attacks, melting away into the shadows before the aliens could react. The alien soldiers, built for overwhelming force, struggled to adapt to this style of combat. Their technology was powerful, but it wasn't flexible. Human forces exploited this weakness with ruthless efficiency. Strike teams infiltrated alien outposts, dismantling their supply chains and sabotaging their equipment. The Empire's ground troops quickly became isolated, their lines of communication severed, their supply routes cut off. This wasn't a battle of strength, it was a battle of strategy and adaptability, and humanity was winning. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Empire's fleet faced problems of its own. Terran engineers, working around the clock, had managed to break into the alien ships' systems, hijacking entire warships and drones. Alien commanders found their own fleets turning against them as hacked ships began attacking Imperial vessels. The Empire's forces, already reeling from the unexpected resistance, were now dealing with internal chaos. Their once invincible fleet was crumbling from the inside out. At the center of Earth's counteroffensive was General Maria Kalin. She had studied the Empire's battle tactics, identifying patterns of arrogance and over-reliance on technology. Kalin knew that while the Empire had numbers and firepower, they lacked the ability to adapt quickly. She leveraged that weakness mercilessly. Every move the Empire made was anticipated, every counterstrike perfectly timed. The Empire's rigid command structure worked against them, forcing their forces to follow protocols that Earth soldiers could easily predict. As the battles unfolded, Kalin's strategies began to take their toll. The alien invaders, unused to fighting an enemy that wouldn't yield, started to falter. Morale among the Empire's forces dropped. They were up against an opponent that refused to play the role of the conquered. Earth wasn't like the other worlds they had subjugated. It was a planet built on conflict, innovation, and survival. The Terran strike force, equipped with both human ingenuity and stolen alien tech, pushed the Empire's forces back. On the ground, human scientists continued reverse engineering alien weapons, making rapid improvements and deploying new tools in the field. Earth's ability to learn and adapt faster than the Empire could react was one of their greatest assets. With every encounter, the balance of power shifted more and more in humanity's favor. The Empire had expected a straightforward invasion, but what they got was a protracted, brutal conflict. They had never faced an enemy like the Terrans, who could turn every disadvantage into an advantage. What started as a battle for Earth was quickly becoming a war for survival for the Galactic Empire. The more they fought, the more it became clear they were ill-prepared to deal with an enemy that fought with such tenacity and innovation. General Kalen, watching the alien forces struggle, knew they were close to breaking. The Empire's soldiers were highly trained, but they had never faced such relentless opposition. Their morale was crumbling, and their leadership, paralyzed by their own inflexible command structure, was failing to adapt. Kalen wasn't going to let this opportunity slip by. As the Terran strike force pressed the attack, they launched a series of daring raids on alien command centers. These missions, carried out by small, highly trained units, were surgical in their precision. In one bold move, a team of Terran operatives infiltrated the Empire's Central Command ship in Earth's orbit. Using stolen alien technology, they disabled the ship's shields and turned its weapons against the rest of the fleet. In the chaos, other Terran ships, repurposed from the alien fleet, joined the assault. The invasion was rapidly spiraling out of control for the Galactic Empire. What was supposed to be a simple, overwhelming conquest had turned into a nightmare. Their ships were being hijacked, their soldiers were outmaneuvered, and their technology was being turned against them at every step. The Empire's leaders, who had never imagined Earth could resist for more than a few days, were now watching their forces fall apart. Kalen's leadership had transformed a desperate defense into a full-scale counteroffensive. Every move the Terrans made pushed the Empire closer to collapse. The alien invaders, for all their technological superiority, couldn't keep up with the speed and ingenuity of the Terran strike force. The battlefield was no longer theirs to control. For the first time, the Empire realized they had severely underestimated their enemy. Earth wasn't just defending itself, it was actively turning the tide of the war. And with every defeat, the Empire's grip on the situation slipped further out of their hands. As the Empire scrambled to regain control, General Kalen prepared for the next phase of the battle. She knew that victory wasn't just possible, it was within reach. The Galactic Empire, once the most feared force in the galaxy, was now facing the reality of a war they couldn't win. And humanity, long dismissed as a primitive species, was proving to be their undoing. The Empire's invasion had backfired in the most catastrophic way possible, and the Terrans were just getting started. The turning point had come, but the Galactic Empire was far from defeated. Though their forces were in disarray, their sheer size and firepower still posed a significant threat. However, General Maria Kalen had anticipated this. She knew that to truly end the invasion, Earth couldn't simply defend itself, it had to go on the offensive. The Empire had spread itself too thin, leaving weaknesses that Kalen and her team could exploit. The time had come to push back, and humanity wasn't going to hold back. The first step was to turn the captured alien warships to their full potential. Earth's best minds had worked tirelessly, learning the intricacies of the Empire's technology. With key systems hacked and their weapons repurposed, these warships became the spearhead of a new strategy, a counter-invasion. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Empire, the invaders would become the invaded. The Terran strike force, now reinforced by the reverse-engineered alien vessels, launched a series of coordinated attacks on the Empire's forward bases in the solar system. Human forces, equipped with the technology they had once feared, began systematically dismantling the Empire's presence in space. Alien supply lines were severed, and their strategic points fell one by one. The Empire's fleet, already weakened by internal chaos, couldn't keep up with the speed and precision of the Terran counterattacks. Kalen's strategy was clear: cripple the Empire's ability to regroup, and they would collapse under their own weight. But she wasn't content with just pushing them out of the solar system. She knew that as long as the Empire's core remained intact, they would return. This war wouldn't be over until the heart of the Empire was broken. And so Kalen planned something the Empire hadn't foreseen: a direct strike on their homeworld. The idea of humans launching an attack on the Empire's capital would have been unthinkable just days ago, but the situation had changed dramatically. The Empire's leadership, scattered and disconnected, was vulnerable. With their forces stretched thin and communications in shambles, they couldn't anticipate an attack on their own doorstep. Kalen, ever the tactician, saw the perfect opportunity. The Terran strike force, using the stolen warships as cover, began their journey to the Empire's core worlds. The trip was long, and the risks were high, but the rewards were even greater. Kalen had one goal: to strike at the heart of the Empire's command and bring the entire regime to its knees. Humanity wasn't going to wait for the Empire to regroup. They were going to end this war on their terms. As the human fleet approached the Empire's capital, they encountered little resistance. The Empire's remaining forces were scattered across the galaxy, still trying to suppress rebellions and shore up defenses on distant worlds. They hadn't expected the humans to bring the fight to them. By the time the Empire realized what was happening, it was already too late. The Terran strike force struck hard and fast, hitting key military installations and command centers on the Empire's home planet. Their attack was precise and devastating. The Empire, long accustomed to being the aggressor, had no contingency for defending their own territory. Chaos erupted as human forces overwhelmed the capital's defenses. Alien leaders, once so confident in their power, now scrambled to escape as their command structure collapsed around them. For the Empire's citizens, the sight of human forces storming their capital was a shock they couldn't process. The propaganda they had been fed for centuries, that the Empire was invincible, that no primitive species could ever challenge them, was shattered in an instant. The Galactic Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was crumbling before their eyes. Meanwhile, Earth's forces continued their relentless assault. Every alien ship captured, every weapon repurposed, was used to further cripple the Empire. The Terran strike force had become a symbol of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. What had begun as a desperate defense of their homeworld had turned into a full-scale counter-invasion. And now, the invaders were learning what it meant to face an enemy that wouldn't back down. As the Empire's capital fell, Kalen's forces pushed deeper into their territory. The once organized Empire was now a scattered mess, with rebel factions rising on dozens of worlds. News of the Empire's defeat on Earth had spread like wildfire, inspiring uprisings in other subjugated planets. The Galactic Empire, already weakened by its failed invasion, couldn't handle rebellions on so many fronts. The very forces they had once used to dominate the galaxy were now tearing them apart from within. The human counter-invasion was more than just a military victory, it was the beginning of the end for the Empire. For centuries, they had ruled through fear and power, but now, that power was slipping from their grasp. The fall of their capital marked the turning point in a war they could no longer win. And humanity, long underestimated and overlooked, had risen to take its place as a major power in the galaxy. But for General Kalen, the war wasn't just about defeating the Empire. It was about ensuring that humanity was never underestimated again. She knew that this victory wasn't just about Earth, it was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a backwater species on a distant planet. They had proven themselves capable of standing up to the most powerful empire in the galaxy and emerging victorious. And now, the galaxy would take notice. The invasion had backfired in ways the Galactic Empire could never have imagined. Their arrogance, their belief in their own superiority, had been their undoing. Earth, the planet they had thought would fall in days, had not only survived but had turned the tables. And the Terran strike force, once a hidden defense unit, had become the vanguard of a new era in human history. The war wasn't over, but the tides had shifted. The Galactic Empire's days were numbered, and humanity, with General Maria Kalen at the helm, was poised to rise from the ashes of their invasion stronger than ever before. The collapse of the Galactic Empire was swift and devastating. With their capital in ruins and their leadership fractured, they had lost the ability to coordinate their remaining forces. The Empire's vast military machine, once feared across the galaxy, was now nothing more than a scattered collection of fleets and garrisons struggling to maintain control over a crumbling domain. But humanity wasn't finished yet. The Terran strike force, emboldened by their success, was determined to ensure the Empire would never rise again. As the Empire's infrastructure continued to disintegrate, rebel factions on distant worlds seized the opportunity to strike back. These were planets that had lived under the Empire's oppressive rule for generations, and now, seeing the Empire's vulnerability, they were rising up. What started as isolated rebellions quickly spread, with entire star systems declaring independence. The Empire, already stretched thin, could do nothing to stop them. Humanity played a crucial role in fanning the flames of these uprisings. The Terran strike force, using the Empire's own captured ships, delivered supplies and weapons to rebel groups across the galaxy. These alliances were born out of necessity, but they solidified humanity's growing influence in the wider galactic community. Earth was no longer just defending itself, it was shaping the future of the galaxy. General Maria Kalin, always one step ahead, recognized that the Empire's defeat was inevitable. But she also knew that power vacuums in the galaxy were dangerous. If humanity didn't act decisively, other alien powers might try to seize control of the territory once held by the Empire. Kalin wasn't interested in conquest, but she was committed to ensuring Earth's security in this new, chaotic galaxy. Her strategy was simple: stabilize the regions that had been under the Empire's control and forge new alliances with the emerging powers. To achieve this, the Terran Strike Force launched a series of rapid deployments to key planets that were on the verge of collapse. These missions were focused on providing humanitarian aid, restoring order, and ensuring that power didn't fall into the hands of factions that could become future threats. Earth's forces weren't just seen as liberators, they were seen as the new stabilizing force in the galaxy. Where the Empire had ruled through fear, humanity offered something different: cooperation and protection. The remnants of the Galactic Empire were powerless to stop this shift. Their once feared fleets were now a fraction of their former strength, and the loss of their capital had shattered any hope of a unified command. Alien generals who had once been the face of the Empire's dominance now scrambled to carve out their own territories in a desperate attempt to retain some semblance of power. But these fragmented forces were no match for the combined might of the Terran Strike Force and the growing number of allied worlds. As humanity's influence spread, other alien species began to take notice. Some, once aligned with the Empire, approached Earth seeking peace and cooperation. They had seen how the Terran Strike Force had dismantled the Empire's forces and knew that resisting would be futile. Others, still clinging to the belief that they could fill the void left by the Empire, mounted small-scale attacks on human forces. But these were quickly crushed by the Terran Strike Force, which had become the most formidable military in the galaxy. With each victory, humanity's reputation grew. They were no longer the underestimated, isolated species the Empire had thought they were. Now they were a galactic power in their own right. But unlike the Empire, Earth had no interest in subjugation. General Kalin and her leadership team understood that lasting peace would only come through alliances, not domination. And so, humanity's diplomatic efforts expanded alongside their military campaigns. One of the most significant moments in the post-war period came when Earth hosted a summit of the newly independent worlds. This gathering, held on one of the planets liberated from the Empire's control, was a turning point in galactic history. Representatives from dozens of worlds came together to discuss the future of the galaxy. And at the center of it all was humanity, not as conquerors, but as mediators. The summit produced a landmark agreement, a galactic coalition dedicated to maintaining peace and preventing the rise of another empire. This coalition, while still in its infancy, laid the groundwork for a new era of cooperation among the galaxy's species. And at its head was General Maria Kalin, whose leadership had guided Earth from the brink of destruction to a position of unparalleled influence. But even as peace began to take root, Kalin knew that humanity's journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges ahead were still unknown. Yet, for the first time in its history, Earth was ready to face them. The invasion that had once threatened to wipe out humanity had become the catalyst for their rise. And now, the Terran Strike Force, along with their new allies, stood watch over a galaxy that had forever changed. The story of the Galactic Empire's invasion had reached its conclusion, but the legacy of that war would shape the future for generations to come. Humanity, long thought to be insignificant by the galactic powers, had proven its strength, its resilience, and its determination to survive. They had turned an invasion into an opportunity, a moment of crisis into a defining victory. And now, with the Empire defeated, they looked to the stars, not with fear, but with confidence. In the aftermath of the war, Earth's leaders focused on rebuilding and preparing for the next phase of human exploration. The galaxy was full of new possibilities, and humanity was eager to explore them. The remnants of the Empire were swept away, and the future was wide open. What had begun as a desperate defense against an overwhelming force had ended with Earth as one of the most powerful and respected planets in the galaxy. The invasion had backfired spectacularly, and the Galactic Empire, once thought invincible, was now nothing more than a footnote in history. And humanity, with its newfound allies and hard-won knowledge, was ready to face whatever came next.